Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, let's dive right in. Today, we're putting on our food historian hats to look at a beloved Caribbean street food that you've probably grabbed for a quick lunch or maybe a late-night snack. Yep, we're talking about the Jamaican patty. But we're not just going to talk about how incredibly delicious it is. We are going to uncover the profound, literally world-spanning history hidden inside that flaky, golden crust. So, is the Jamaican patty the most history-packed food in the world? I know, it's a super bold claim, right? But by the end of our time together, you might just find yourself nodding along. We really need to shift our perspective here. Instead of seeing the patty as just this quick convenience food, I want you to view it as a genuine historical artifact, a delicious document of human movement, survival, and pure ingenuity. In fact, scholars and historians actually call the patty a complex material archive of international migration. So think of yourself as a culinary archaeologist for a second. Every single bite of a patty reveals totally different layers of the Caribbean diaspora. It's essentially a physical timeline, baked right into a hand pie. Let's map this out and look at the massive waves of human migration to Jamaica that brought the foundational ingredients of this dish together. We start way back between 600 and 900 AD with the arrival of the indigenous Taino people. Then we move to the 15th through 17th centuries with Spanish and British colonization, followed by the tragic forced migration of enslaved Africans from the 17th to the 19th centuries, and finally, the arrival of Indian and Chinese indentured laborers in the 19th century. All of these migrations, both forced and free, contributed to what we now hold in our hands. Section 1. The crust, turmeric, and tradition. All right, let's begin our anatomical deconstruction of the patty from the outside in, starting with that absolutely iconic golden, flaky exterior. The crucial point here is adaptation. You see, the British colonists brought the Cornish pasty, and the Spanish brought the empanada, but those European hand pies were generally pretty mild, dense, and uncolored. Enslaved African cooks working in colonial kitchens were tasked with recreating those familiar foods, but lacking traditional European ingredients, they adapted. They synthesized these mild pastries with local botanical resources to create a vibrant, highly spiced turnover that was, quite frankly, a massive improvement on the original. Now, if you've ever wondered where that incredible golden yellow color comes from, look no further than turmeric. Back in the mid-19th century, after Britain abolished slavery, plantation owners brought in indentured Indian sugar workers to keep their labor costs low. These workers brought their culinary traditions with them, specifically curry powder and turmeric. And turmeric is absolutely essential here. It fundamentally altered the pastry's visual identity and added this subtle, earthy flavor profile that basically defines the authentic crust today. But hey, color is only half the story of the crust. Let's talk about the thermodynamics, the science of flakiness. To get those delicate, crispy layers, bakers use cold, solid fats. Traditionally, that's beef suet or a shortening, which have way higher melting points than butter. When you grate these frozen fats into cold flour and bake the dough, those solid fat pockets slowly melt. This creates steam, which physically forces the surrounding flour layers apart right before they set. It's like a precise gastronomic mechanic happening right in the oven. Section 2. The filling, spice, and resource. Okay, now that we understand that beautiful golden shell, let's move deeper into our artifact to explore the savory, fiery filling and the indigenous roots of its really bold flavor. The filling is where the heat lives, and for that, we look to the Taino people. The Taino originated in the Orinoco Valley and migrated to Jamaica, bringing with them cayenne and cultivating the Scotch bonnet pepper. This pepper is vital for the patty's authentic piquant heat. I mean, it is many times hotter than your standard jalapeno. It gives the meat that distinctive, complex warmth that makes your lips tingle in the absolute best way possible. And while seasoned ground beef is the traditional classic for sure, African culinary ingenuity utilized all the local island resources available to invent a really vibrant array of fillings. Today, you can find patties stuffed with curried chicken, local leafy greens called callaloo, the national dish of ackee and saltfish, and even fresh seafood like shrimp and lobster. The patty just became this incredibly versatile vessel for whatever the island provided. Section 3. Chinese Jamaican commercial empires. Shifting our historical timeline forward to the mid-20th century, we are going to look at how this homemade hand pie transformed into a global fast food icon. Up until then, the patty was mostly a domestic foodstuff, made by hand in home kitchens and small bakeries. But in the 1960s, Chinese Jamaican entrepreneurs who traditionally ran many of the island's bakeries changed the game entirely. They applied automated industrial baking techniques to the patty. This mechanization shifted it from a handmade, artisanal street food into a highly standardized commercial staple. And that marks the true birth of the Jamaican fast food industry. Tasty was founded in 1966, Juicy followed in 1978, and Mother's came along in 1981. These three major franchises created a fierce corporate rivalry that dominates the Jamaican landscape even today. Choosing whether you are Team Tasty or Team Juicy is a serious cultural marker over there, with fans constantly debating whose crust is flakier and whose filling is perfectly seasoned. Section 4. The Diaspora and Patty Wars. Next, we follow the patty as it traveled globally, because as people moved, their foodways moved right along with them, leading to some incredible and sometimes pretty bizarre cultural collisions. During the post-World War II era, particularly the 60s and 70s, significant Caribbean migration established vibrant diasporic hubs. Immigrants used these traditional recipes as a vehicle for economic self-sufficiency and cultural connection. In the Bronx, New York, Golden Crust became a massive franchise. Over in Birmingham in the UK, Island Delight brought the patty to the British market. And in Toronto, Canada, places like Patty King Bakery fed a rapidly growing Caribbean community. But our story takes a genuinely fascinating turn in Toronto in the year 1985. A bizarre historical event unfolded that became known as the Canadian Patty Wars. Yes, $11,000. That was the massive fine Canadian bureaucrats actually threatened to slap on local patty vendors. Why? Well, because according to the Federal Meat Inspection Act at the time, a beef patty was strictly defined as the meat that goes inside a hamburger bun, without any dough or crust. The government legitimately demanded that vendors change their names, their signs, and their packaging because they felt the term beef patty would confuse Canadian consumers. Well, you can probably imagine how that went over. There was immediate and loud community pushback. People argued the food was a vital part of their cultural heritage, and come on, no one was actually confusing a flaky pastry with a hamburger. With a prime ministerial visit to Jamaica looming and a potential diplomatic crisis brewing, a literal patty summit was held on February 19, 1985. The triumphant compromise? Vendors could keep selling them as long as they officially called them a Jamaican patty. It was a huge victory for the community. Section 5. The perfect pairing. Cocoa bread. We're going to conclude our anatomical deconstruction with a look at the ultimate historian's recommendation for a truly authentic culinary experience. If you really want to eat a patty the way it's meant to be eaten, you absolutely have to pair it with cocoa bread. It is all about the contrast here. The Jamaican patty is crispy, fiery, savory, and highly spiced. Cocoa bread, which gets its name because the dough is made with coconut milk, is soft, slightly sweet, and totally pillowy. Put them together, and they create a perfect gastronomic symbiosis. Okay, let's walk through the exact steps of assembling this hearty, definitely calorie-dense sandwich for maximum flavor. First, you take the warm, buttery cocoa bread and gently open it at the slit. Second, you slide that hot, flaky patty right in the middle. Third, if you're feeling brave, you add a generous dash of hot pepper sauce. And fourth, you take a big bite and experience the ultimate textural contrast. The soft, sweet crumb of the bread cushions the crispy pastry and perfectly absorbs all that savory, spicy gravy. It is unbelievable. So why does all of this matter? What's the real takeaway here? It matters because the Jamaican patty is so much more than just a street food. It is a bite-sized piece of history, culture, and island resilience. It's a living testament to cultural synthesis, taking Spanish herbs, British pastry techniques, African culinary ingenuity, Taino heat, and Indian and Chinese spices, and creating this beautiful, delicious result out of global human connection and survival. So, I want to leave you with this thought. Next time you bite into a golden, flaky Jamaican patty, which chapter of its incredible global journey will you taste first? Will it be the Taino spice, the Indian turmeric, or the unyielding resilience of the diaspora? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating culinary archive with me today on This Explainer. Keep learning and stay curious.